This episode of Musical Hell is brought to you by Midnight Musicals. Welcome to the podcast Musical Underground. And by Cafe Himbo Cookbooks, celebrating his 10th anniversary. Thank you. Greetings, mortals. Welcome to another session of the Infernal Court in Musical Hell. I'm Diva, your judge, jury, executioner, and won't someone please think of the children? No, I'm not referring to drag queens reading storybooks or teenage characters getting their period or whatever it is that has the moral guardian's knickers in a twist today. I speak of the shamelessly half-assed material that gets produced in the name of children's entertainment, several examples of which have appeared before this court and which we must confront again with our next offender, the Scarecrow. The last desperate attempt by Warner Brothers Animation to break into the animated musical genre, this direct-to-video embarrassment is based on Feathertop, an odd little fable by Nathaniel Hawthorne about a witch who brings a scarecrow to life for shiggles, gives him the appearance of a human, and sends him to woo a local girl only for him to see his true form in a mirror and choose to return to his original state rather than live a false life. It's an interesting concept and has been dramatized, even musicalized, multiple times, but this is the first time it has been animated. For certain values of the term.
It hurts! I mean, it really hurts!
I could just stop right there, but nevertheless, let's examine the case of the Scarecrow. So the movie takes place in vaguely colonial times, and oh sweet Lucifer!
Did I mention I was a witch?
Did I mention your sin number one? This is Miss Beebe, catalyst for the plot, provider of exposition, and an absolute pain in every single scene she's in, which mercifully isn't that many. The clumsy and haphazard way of establishing the premise is bad enough, but it becomes unendurable when she insists on shoving into the frame and drawing focus, and treating the movie like her own personal VHS.
Rewind! Fast forward! Rewind!
What the hell am I looking at? When does this happen in the movie?
Now. You're looking at now, sir. Everything that happens now is happening now.
All of this means it takes an inordinate amount of time to get everything established, but we'll try to summarize. Miss Beebe lives in the town of Grisham Heights with her sorcerer's apprentice-style broom Bristles, and it's a pretty grim place. The town founder and high muckety-muck, Count Grisham, has impoverished the populace to fuel his passion for dancing, and orphans, debtors, and other destitutes are forced to labor in the local workhouse. One such unfortunate, the sweet orphan girl Polly, is working hard to earn the 13 pieces of silver she'll need to pay off her indenture. Oh, also Miss Beebe was a dance teacher, and Grisham was her pupil until he tried to pull a Donald O'Connor and discovered her secret witch stuff.
Here's a good one! Dance steps to make someone fall in love with you!
Miss Beebe stuns him with her magic feather, as in a feather with magic powers, not a placebo that eventually teaches you a lesson in self-confidence, but as a result she has to leave town and live in a cottage in the woods. She's still there years later when Polly has become a young woman and is now saving up to not only buy her freedom, but that of the 3 cute waifs she's taken into her care. She hides her stash under the Scarecrow in Miss Beebe's field, and the witch is touched by her plight, but is afraid of getting the whole Salem treatment, so she decides to intervene in a more indirect way.
Why not bring my Scarecrow to life?
I mean, a kicky checkered hat is the preferable tool for this kind of magic, but, work with what you got. The spell, which also gives a mouse in the Scarecrow's pocket the power of speech, doesn't seem likely to influence Polly's life much, especially since Miss Beebe gives the Scarecrow strict no moving around and freaking out the normies rules. But she teaches him to channel his inner Gene Kelly, and he watches over Polly from his post, inevitably falling in love with her. Worried that her creation's feelings will get the better of him and cause him to expose her, Miss Beebe just up and leaves, really.
Just remember this, Scarecrow. Helping other people, giving your life for somebody else. That's what it's all about.
So yeah, that's where things stand on the day when Polly will finally earn the last piece of silver she needs, and we get our opening song featuring the overworked, underpaid denizens of the town and, well, let's just say it's no at the end of the day.
Hey, boss, Grisham, we need a rest. Here you got us working like a colony of ants. Sweat is all the count and dance.
Are you kidding? This is what you came up with for your abused, impoverished populace bemoaning their life of drudgery? It's entirely too cheerful. This is the kind of song people sing about the one weird girl in town, not about the misery of wage theft. Polly's part in this isn't much better. It's something that a Christian pop group would dismiss as too generically inspirational.
We are on our way, and we won't look back, not ever.
Polly gets her last piece of silver, but before she and the waifs can celebrate, Count Grisham's manservant Wooden arrives in a carriage to take her to visit his boss's unimpressive McMansion Hell estate. See, Grisham has his eye on Polly too, and he's attempting to woo her with presents for her foster kids.
Fireplace to keep things toasty, gobs of toys, nice fluffy cozy beds.
Grisham, our villain, is sin number 3. As Sarouche was to Frollo, Grisham is to Gaston, a character who has the same broad MO, but who executes it much less effectively. Grisham is never really threatening. Sure, he exudes incel energy like an open call for Judd Fry, but in general the character is too childish and dopey.
You kids are gonna have the time of your life! We're gonna have music, and punch, and lots of crackers with those little cheesy swirls on them!
Selfishness and childish petulance can translate into a serious threat, obligatory real-world example, but Grisham's whiny voice and generally comic behavior never gives way to real malice. Grisham's plan is to use a magic love spell dance to get Polly to fall for him, but before he can sweep her off her feet in various senses, she drops her silver, causing her to beat a hasty retreat. Since Grisham has been kind of depending on Polly being broke and having no better options, he orders the workhouse overseer Cheswick to find out where she's keeping her savings. Cheswick is dumb even by dumb henchman standards, so he's not very successful.
Grisham thought I could trick you?
Show me the money!
There was maybe a 3-month window when that joke might have been considered remotely funny, and this movie was nowhere near it. But more importantly, we need to talk about the clumsy use of anachronism here. Deliberate anachronism in media is effective under 2 circumstances. The first is if it's funny. It can be an individual character's thing or the style of the overall movie, but either way it establishes a lighthearted, tongue-in-cheek mood. The second is when it connects the historical context with something more immediately relevant to the audience. When characters in Bridgerton dance to chamber music covers of Material Girl or Wrecking Ball, it draws a parallel between the formalized courtship rituals of the early 19th century and the language of modern relationships. Either way, the anachronisms contribute to the overall mood and style of the piece. The jokes in The Scarecrow aren't funny, they're mostly dated pop culture references, and the look of the film doesn't support their presence. The aesthetic is much closer to Don Bluth's pseudo-Disney Renaissance period. This doesn't look like a setting where characters would talk like teenage millennials. Or at least what old out-of-touch writers thought teenage millennials sounded like.
No way! This is so cool!
Back in the cornfield, Scarecrow is hanging around pining after Polly. Miss Beebe left him Bristles and Max the Talking Mouse for companions, but they're not helpful at giving him love advice. Bristles because he can't really speak, and Max because he talks too much.
Yeah, I hope you get termites.
Polly confides to the seemingly inanimate Scarecrow that she'll miss pouring her heart out to him, and even says that she loves him, but before Scarecrow can figure out if that means she loves him, Cheswick shows up and attempts to pilfer Polly's earnings.
You don't want this jar, 'cause I am one bad Scarecrow.
I mean, no, really, you look very intimidating. Cheswick is frightened off, and Max is convinced this will bring the torches and pitchforks crowd before dawn, but Scarecrow is now determined to protect Polly's finances. Also, he's in the mood for a love ballad, so we get sin number 5, When She Looks at Me.
Somehow thank you doesn't seem sufficient for my queen of hearts.
I'm not sure what's more ungainly, the lyrics or the melody. Most of the songs in this movie are forgettable, but this one is particularly unimpressive. Realizing that anyone who can sing something like that is unable to be reasoned with, Max reluctantly accompanies Scarecrow and Bristles into town. The initial plan is to have Bristles fly the money up to Polly's window, but he gets distracted by... sexy broom? I mean, I don't know what the standards are for this kind of thing, but according to the underscore, that is a very fuckable broom. Scarecrow tries to alert Polly, but she fails the spot check, allowing Grisham's pet henchbird Razor, he has a pet henchbird by the way, it figures in all of 2 scenes, to steal the cash. Worse, Cheswick has spotted them and has brought reinforcements, forcing Scarecrow to retreat back to Miss Beebe's hut.
Ugh, I am so stupid!
Oh, no, you're not stupid. Stupid doesn't have enough vowels!
What does that even mean? The more I see of Max, the less I like him. He's supposed to be the grounded, practical, and pessimistic foil to Scarecrow's romantic idealism, but he mostly has one mode: loud, angry, and more than a little mean-spirited. And his interactions with the title character pretty much have the same dynamic. Scarecrow wants to do something, Max loudly complains that it's a bad idea, Scarecrow does it anyway, on to the next scene. It gets old very quickly. Cornered by his pursuers, Scarecrow wishes aloud that he were human, activating a secret plot compartment. It turns out Miss Beebe left her magic feather behind and set it to play a recorded message in the event of a wish. And of all the tired anachronistic gags in this movie, this one is the most worn out and the least funny.
If your wish was for greater wisdom, press 1 now.
What?
If your wish was for eternal youth, press 2 now.
Yeah, moving on. Miss Beebe explains that she can't make Scarecrow human, but if he puts the feather in his cap, he can take on the appearance of one.
Ha-ha! Ooh!
Cheswick, or rather Cheswick's dog, figures out pretty quickly that the new arrival, who calls himself Master Feathertop, isn't all he appears to be, but he has a pretty long track record of being an idiot, so of course nobody believes him. Scarecrow, aka Feathertop, is pretty pleased with the illusion, but there are drawbacks. The feather has to stay in his hat and the hat on his head at all times, and any reflective surface reveals his true self. No matter, Feathertop is sure he can work around these issues and heads back into the village, unaware that Miss Beebe's message wasn't finished.
Now look, real life will only be yours when you're willing to give your life for another.
Yeah, nobody ever reads the terms and conditions. Fun fact, in Hawthorne's story and most of the adaptations, the title character maintains his human form by smoking a corncob pipe. But as this was the post-Joe Camel era, this movie goes for something a little less nicotine-based. Anyway, back to Grisham, who is simultaneously gloating over stealing Polly's money and raging at how close she came to thwarting him.
Well, now old Grish has got what you want, Polly, and he's gonna use it till he gets what he wants. Do you think I slip into third person too often?
Okay, I laughed. You win this round, Grisham. Polly, meanwhile, is mourning the loss of her money and the freedom it represented, but she's distracted from her sorrows by the appearance of Feathertop, who has decided the best way to help out is by doing a little busking. Hey, it's an opening for a musical number.
On my immediate right, won't you give a hand to Maxine the Mouse?
And a mouse drag show, apparently. But before any of this can have an effect on the plot, Wooden turns up and announces the Count is holding a pairs dance competition with a grand prize of 52 pieces of silver. Polly is thrilled and not in the least bit suspicious that this happens to be the exact amount of money that she needs and which was very recently stolen from her. And she and Feathertop arrive at the logical conclusion almost immediately.
You want me to be your partner?
Oi, Gavalt.
The only drawback is that Polly doesn't know how to dance, so Feathertop offers to teach her that night. Despite Max being his usual killjoy self about the whole thing, they meet at the docks, a rather poor choice for a rendezvous on Feathertop's part, what with all the reflective water nearby, and they have their synth-heavy love duet.
Have you heard? Have I told you?
I just want to hold you, rolled with you in my arms.
Extra cheesy arrangement aside, this song, In Your Arms, is a glimpse of what this movie might have been. Maybe it's the Beauty and the Beast echoes evoking a bit of fondness by proxy, but there is a genuine sweetness to the song and the way the characters interact with one another. Even with as little development as they've had, you do get a sense of them connecting as a couple and want them to be happy together. It's a saving grace and deserves to be in a movie where it doesn't feel out of place amidst a bunch of self-consciously modernized jokes and dialogue. Speak of the boss, obviously Grisham's angle in this whole affair is to get Polly into a position where he can love dance her into submission, and he's quite irritated to learn Feathertop has beaten him to the punch.
Ow!
Getting splinters in uncomfortable places isn't doing much for his villain cred. Grisham immediately sends his faceless thugs to take out the competition, and we get a little chase scene as Feathertop dodges them and the persistent Cheswick while scrambling among some vaguely dangerous gearworks. The chase ends with Grisham netting Feathertop and threatening him in a not very threatening manner before going to Polly and saying, "Gee, shame your date stood you up. You know, I'd be willing to dance with you," which she's not too thrilled about, but she needs that money, so dilemma and woe. And so we get the hokey pokey.
Music moves you, can't you feel the beat? The rhythm grooves you now from head to feet.
This entire dance contest is going to be sin number 7. First we have the main song, We Got to Do Better Than That, which looks like nothing so much as the clothing dance from Cannon's Sleeping Beauty combined with the I Can't Dance video. Polly is forced to pair with Grisham, and he nearly dances her under his spell, but before he can seal the deal...
Feathertop?
What?
Sorry I'm late.
Yeah, no explanation for how Feathertop got himself free or anything. He's just here now, and he's gonna show these small-town squares how it's done. No, movie. No. You take your copyright-friendly version of Sing 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 and go to your room to think about what you've done to one of the undisputed greatest pieces of swing music ever written. Yes, we are once again in awkward Anachronism territory, as Feathertop borrows from Patrick Swayze and John Travolta, and I'm not even sure what this is. Feathertop and Polly win the competition, and as he drives her home, they rather abruptly confess their love for one another.
How do you mean that? More than bagels and cream cheese?
I've never had a bagel, but I'm sure it's more.
If you ever doubt your creative writing skills, remember, someone was paid for that line. The two agree to marry the next day, but unfortunately Grisham's goons instantly waylay Feathertop again, leading his companions to wonder what he's gotten up to.
Listen to me. There's no such thing as a girl broom.
While getting into arguments about broom gender identity. Grisham has Feathertop brought to his manor so he can whine at him. There's really no other way to put it. And since this scene is taking place in the Count's vanity chamber, you can probably guess what happens next.
Do you know who I am? Take a look! Look at me!
No.
Grisham recognizes Miss Beebe's magic feather and gets his henchbird to nab it, and the next morning, Polly and the 3 urchins, they do have names, but they don't figure enough in this story for me to remember them, are anxiously waiting at the altar.
Oh, he'll be here. I'm sure he's just tied up.
Oh, nobody ever says that in a movie unless, yep, ironic cut right there. Using the magic feather and the rather ambiguous rules as to how it works, Grisham takes on Feathertop's appearance and sets the field on fire to do away with his rival. No, he can't just set the Scarecrow on fire directly. That would be too easy and not give him time to escape.
And just when she thinks her dreams have all come true, I'll take her and the little goobers
Straight back to the workhouse mill.
Also, he's given up on making Polly love him now, I guess? No matter, Bristles sees the smoke and he and Max run to the rescue. Scarecrow races towards the church while the sidekicks engage in an aerial battle with the henchbird, and they are able to steal the feather back right before Grisham makes his entrance.
Sorry I'm late again.
Grisham tries to salvage the situation by forcing Polly's hand, but she declares she'd sooner die than marry him, and the local clergy is backing her up. So he goes off to stew while Max returns the feather to Scarecrow. And in his one genuine voice of reason moment, Max explains the problems inherent in trying to build a life and marriage on a lie.
You're a scarecrow. and you'll always be a scarecrow. You have to let it go.
Feathertop agrees and decides for Polly's own good he must leave town. Meanwhile, Grisham is back in his manor plotting revenge.
I'm gonna do a bad thing!
Or maybe plotting to steal from a cookie jar. Grisham has decided that if he can't have Polly, nobody will, a declaration that horrifies Wooden into immediately resigning his position, warning Polly of the danger and urging her and the waifs to take the carriage out of town. Which just plays into Grisham's hands, as he's decided the rickety bridge, which is the only way out, is the perfect murder weapon.
Faster!
Bristles has overheard Grisham's plot too and alerts Feathertop, who arrives, sends the goons scrambling, and fights with Grisham until the latter meets his requisite animated villain demise. Feathertop does his best to keep the bridge from collapsing, and after a bit of tension, the carriage makes it to safety at the cost of the bridge and apparently Feathertop's life. The sidekicks mourn, but in the immortal words of Michael Palin, he's just resting. After free soloing his way out of the ravine, Feathertop tells Polly he loves her but they can never be together, little realizing that he's conspicuously missing his namesake accessory.
Feathertop, you forgot your feather.
Yes, Feathertop earned his humanity by saving Polly's life. Or possibly by being willing to go away to ensure her happiness, I'm not entirely sure, and also this whole arrangement is still kind of dishonest because Polly never really learns about his origins, and I'm not sure this ending was thought out very well. No matter, the town is rechristened Swingtown, Girl Urchin gets Cheswick's dog, Miss Beebe comes back and magics up a lady friend for Bristles, which is fine as long as she doesn't.
So, that's my little story. Looks like everything's squared away around here.
Yes, it is. Happily ever afters all around. Will you just leave? Honestly, Nathaniel Hawthorne's Feathertop does have the potential to be a good animated movie. Either one that goes the lighter and softer Disney route, or holds closer to the bittersweet tone of the source material. And every now and then, the Scarecrow exhibits some of that potential, especially in its more serious moments. But it's held down by an aggravating supporting cast and a tongue-in-cheek tone that is neither suited for the material nor carried off very well. Therefore, the Court of Musical Hell condemns those involved to have to listen to Max complaining about everything they do. So let it be recorded. This session of the Infernal Court in Musical Hell is now adjourned.